There goes Steve. This is incredible. Another encounter. Unbelievable. And I grabbed 2 books purposely, The Great Controversy, and one that is called The Steps to Christ, that actually is for somebody who doesn't know the Lord. And Steve does not know the Lord. But as I hooked up with him riding out here, this is just incredible. I'm just shaking. Wow. I mean, I was just here not more than an hour and a half ago praying for an encounter. I had the encounter with John and Diane, and then here I was, and I seen this guy, and I'm like, the Lord he passed me, then he went this way, and I'm like, I think this is the guy. And so I caught up to him, and we just started talking, and he works at a university, and he's worked at the university for many, many years, and he had a daughter, and then he got remarried, and he had a tragedy early on in his life where he lost his wife, and it was just incredible. And then he ended up doing some other things because he was getting burnt out at the university. And so then I told him a little bit about myself. And he says, that's just incredible, your journey. Because I told him about all the accidents and the pain and the suffering and how it was really Jesus. It was, I said, he just drew me. And he just persevered. And I said, the Lord taught me that I can't sustain without him. I said, I lived off the grid, and I was in a man's world, and I didn't even know how to be a woman. I didn't know how to be a woman, but the Lord taught me how to be a godly woman. And he, and so I said, I like the differences between men and women. And that's what the Lord brought me. And then I said, so here's the $1,000 question, because after he told me a little bit about himself, I said, here's the $1,000 question. I said, are you a believer? Do you know Jesus? He says, well, there's all these different religions, and you can take little pieces from each, and I think they each kind of have a piece of it, the puzzle, but I don't think they have the whole thing. And I said, you know what, you're right. I said, this is the thing about religion. Jesus didn't create religion. I said, the Pharisees nailed Jesus to the cross. And so it's not about religion, because man distorts, and Satan's really good at that. And so religion can actually take us away from Jesus. And I said, the best thing that we can do is have a relationship with Jesus. And I said, that's where it begins. It's that relationship. And he's like, yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. So we got off on another subject, and then I came back around, because then we're talking about death. And, he says, the one sure thing is, yeah, we're going to die. He actually works as a grave digger, digging graves the natural way. And he says, everything goes back to the dust. And he says, I really believe that we came from the dirt. We're going back to the dirt. And I said, that's biblical. I said, God breathed life into Adam, but he formed him out of the dirt. And then we talked about Eve and Adam, and that's how we got into the subject of the male-female thing. But he said, you could tell he was concerned about the mortality thing. He says, the mortality thing, he said, yeah. And, he didn't really verbalize all of it, but I could tell he was uncertain about that. And I said, well, one thing we know is we're going to die, but the one thing I can tell you is I know that in a blink of an eye I'm going to see Jesus. I said, I'm not afraid to die. I'm not afraid. I said, I know what Jesus did on the cross. I know that he conquered death. And I said, and Satan has no power over that. I said, that's a beautiful thing. And I said, and how can I not share that? Christ has transformed my life. And so how can I not share that? I want to give people that eternal hope. That eternal hope that in a blink of an eye, they too will see Jesus, and they too can have hope, and they too can have peace. I said, that is what is so important for me to do. And I said, that's why I've kind of dedicated my whole life to that. And then he said, as we were just coming up here, he said, that's really beautiful. He says, that is really beautiful. He says, you have such light, and it's so beautiful what you do with your spirit. He says, I really appreciate you. And it was so wonderful. And then before I knew it, I was here at the intersection. I said, "Oh, I can't believe I'm here." And he says, "Yeah, this is your spot." And I said, "Well, hang on, hang on." I said, "I got to give you something." So I pulled out, and I couldn't believe it, the most perfect books. The Great Controversy and The Steps to Christ. And I said, "You're a scholar," because he told me about he traced his ancestors back, and they were Puritans. And two of them was on the Mayflower. And also one of them also started, a shaker, was a shaker. And he said one of his great, whatever it was a preacher back then. And I said, "Well, you've got Jesus in your blood." I said, "Do you ever listen to the sermons?" He said, "Oh, yeah." So when I pulled out The Great Controversy, I said, you're a man of intelligence. This is about history in the beginning." I said, "You're really going to enjoy this." I said, "I can't believe I grabbed this, put it in my backpack." That's what I prayed over. And then I said, "But in the back, it's more about prophecy." And so I said, "And then this one is a beginner's guide to Jesus." That's it, a beginner's guide. And then I asked him if I could pray. I never know, because he's not a believer. And you know what? He said yes. He says, "Yes, you can pray for me." And I said, "What do you want me to pray for?" And it was really odd. It was like to find the answers to the questions he's been asking. God knew, my friends. God knew. And I prayed, and when I was done, he was just, you could tell, he's like, really, he's like, "Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you." And I said, "Well, till we meet again." I said, "I'm going to be here at least till the end of the month." So God is good, my friends. God is good. And for him, again, to use me, and I prayed over these books, and there was my encounter. I'm back in Florida. I love it.